Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. We have another supporters stream, and we're going to be talking today about finding alternatives. Let me remember to unmute everybody else. Haha, we are unmuted. We are set to go. I got my titles and everything. So anyway, it's hot here. I think seeing some heatness going on in the chat as well. People are running the AC at full power, running multiple fans. I don't usually do that stuff. I probably should. I mean, I do have central air conditioning in this place, but I've never really used central air. So, but anyway, maybe
I had to shut my AC off for a few days.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because where I'm at, they don't have a strong power grid, and so it's not like yet, but in the middle of the summer when everybody in the block is running air conditioners, the transformers will start blowing up, and it'll start with one of them, and that's going to reroute, all the power into the other one, and then it gets overloaded, and then it's boom, boom, and then you hear them blowing up in the cycle down the street. But where we are, I think we're on the grid for the neighborhood behind us, because we never lose power here, but everybody else in our block does. It's really hilarious. And so
if they replace the transformers, they should all be good then.
Well, the
Chinese are selling us bad ones.
Apparently, or they're just re-putting the same bad spec ones in because every single year.
Oh no!
Oh, there it goes. Okay, it's back up. Back up.
Buffering stopped.
Okay, yeah, we're back. All right.
Now it's
wow.
doing it again.
Sorry, guys. I think we're back. No, it's not OBS giving us a headache. The cat went under the desk and unplugged the network cable.
I'm sorry. The cat's giving us a headache. My fault.
It's the cat. Cat, what are you doing? The cat's like, you're not giving me enough attention. Get off that internet.
This is what happens when you don't wear your mask.
I know, right? He's just like, dude. But yeah. Maybe I should just go ahead and replace that network cable with one that actually has the pin in it to lock it into place. It's just such a pain to replace those things. So I'm like, I don't really want to do it. And all the ones that I have on standby are cheap Chinese crap, and so they'll fall apart. I don't know. It's crazy.
I have quite a few like that
routed
too.
To China.
Yeah.
Before it goes up on the public internet.
They had what in tech?
I said all your data is going to get sent to China before it goes up publicly on the internet.
Yeah, there you go. That's what's going
I got
on.
a 50-footer that's like 10 years old, and I haven't bothered to repair it.
Yeah. All right, let me go through the rest of the comments here. Let's see. Sad, isn't it? The widest group of people using Windows all gave up when Windows 98 SE switched over to XP. Interesting. More than a game to them. Today, Photoshop Pro 3, conversing, and so much more easier to run and understand. They say that GIMP is better. Can't prove it to us. I think GIMP is better, being proficient in both of them. Let's see. Hello, Ian's on. Kazang, how's it going there? Anyone who knows the software better than us is the nerd. There you go. Yes. Ta-da! Can't believe how muggy it is up here. Yeah. It's like 85. I think I'm going to melt. You guys are lucky I'm not streaming without a shirt on because
I was about to say 85 is like winter down here in the south.
It is. You're used to it, but I think you're humid as well. It's like pretty close to 100% humidity too.
It's like if you stay outside too long, you're going to drown.
Yeah, I went outside and about choked from the water in the air.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Using the AC today. There you go. Let's see. Moonbase Alpha Grays, take me to your leader, please. Please. I mean, I did see your leader was here on Earth. The military's talking about him, so for audiobook alternatives, I suggest using Chirp. All right. No treats for that's right. No treats for the kitty. You're unplugging my internet, really, Cat? He's like, yeah, I wanted to see if you put up that cellular backup yet. Let's see if it works. Except I think that's checks it pings the internet every 15 minutes, I think. So that's the case. Yeah. But anyway, if 4 military turbine engine ACs used in Florida, nice. That'd be fun, All right, we got, what do I have today? I think I have vanilla chai tea today. let's go ahead and get into the topic. We are going to be talking about finding alternatives, which I think Mark reminded me, we do talk about finding alternatives every few months or so, but that's okay. There's always new people watching, and it's good to let people know where to find them. And mostly this is kind of coming off the video we did yesterday, which a lot of people liked. Just kind of getting started with Linux. What do you kind of do? And then I talked about, before you jump over to Linux, if you're not there already, the best thing to do is probe around as to what software you can use as it relates to what software you presently have available to you, because that's really going to help you out to transition more smoothly. It'll be a very smooth transition if you're like, okay, I know exactly which software I'm jumping to. And so you can start doing that research now so you can make sure. I mean, it's very possible what you're using already has a Linux build, but it's most likely not the case. So anyone want to jump in first and give any thoughts?
Who's going first?
All right, Salbu, you're going first. You talked first.
I was about to say, I'm the one on camera.
Dab, 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 dab.
Yeah. So
I have to manually change the cameras on this.
Yeah.
So.
I did my switch almost 20 years ago now. The first thing I had to figure out was finding a useful email client. And the desktop I used, it's a KDE. I'm still using KDE. It had a very functional email client built into it, and it had all the features that I had needed. One of is an automatic signing of all outgoing email using GPG keys. Mm-hmm. So I just stuck with that. And later, when I had to ditch completely drop Windows, I had to quite suddenly on the 28th of January 2008, my Windows 2000 hardware crashed, and I used that exclusively for chatting on IRC using Mirk, and I had to find a client that worked, and I used a week or so to get familiar.
So somebody with a 20-year experience using Linux, you're obviously not missing any Windows software at all, right?
No, but I had one thing that people are going to have an experience, I think, is that in my first year or first 2 years, there was some software that I couldn't figure out how to do in Linux. Because they didn't exist because they had other names and so on, and you just have to browse around and ask people how do you do this, what office package do you use, and so on. Yeah. So in the first 2 years, there were some tools that I couldn't figure that I thought didn't exist, and in about 2007, 2008. I had the exact opposite experience on Windows, that there were the tools that I needed to use didn't exist on Windows. So
yeah, you're using Linux so long, you move over to Windows, and it's just like, wait, what? How do I don't even know how I would do any of the switch to Linux channel on Windows.
So the new system in Windows of installing software is. Starting to get useful, having a software store in order to.
Yeah. So, Miura says about the occasional Comcast issue, StreamYards might be helpful. No, StreamYards is just an online version of OBS. Effectively, if my internet's going out, it's no alternative streaming service is going to help. The internet's going out. In this case, it was just the cat unplugged the cable. Not a typical thing we've actually had before on the live stream. We do have, though, the cellular internet backup, though, that I will be talking about sometime soon here. And so we'll get to that. We have a super chat coming in, 750 ISK. I have no idea what ISK is. Well, thank you that. Start a PeerTube instance, embrace freedom, self-hosted options. PeerTube is on my radar. I am in the middle of the super secret project, of course, and I'm not doing anything other than the normal until the super secret project is done. Once that's done, then yeah, PeerTube is something that's on my radar. We'll start working on that matrix bridge. And I'm thinking maybe about a month or so is when we start doing that. Thank you for that super chat. Now, Selby mentioned Office applications, and so we'll just kind of use that as the launching point to say what is the best place to find those alternatives you need, and that would be the Alternative 2 website. So here I just pulled in Microsoft Word. So just go to alternative2.net and type in an application up here, and if it's in the database, it'll pop down, and nearly everything is. So here's the Microsoft Word, and here's information about Microsoft Word. It tells you all about it. And then if you click on the Alternatives tab, it's going to give you a lot of different tools. So here's the number one alternative they're saying is LibreOffice Writer. This is part of the LibreOffice pack, which is probably the number one alternative. Of course, there's also other competitors to that space, OnlyOffice being in that space. OpenOffice, not so much. It's old, it's not updated quite as much, and it doesn't have a lot of the newer key features. There's also WPS, which isn't open, but it is a free system. But they'll have here a lot of different options. So LibreOffice, it tells you where it's available, free and open source, Mac, Windows, Linux, BSD, portableapps.com, React OS. It'll also give us things like Google Docs. Here's the WPS I mentioned, OpenOffice I mentioned, OnlyOffice I mentioned, and then there's a whole bunch more in here that we may or may not remember. You can actually come over here and you can sort by licenses. So if you are completely dedicated to open source, you can just click this and you'll just see only the ones that are open source. If you're like, I don't care about open source, I just want free, then you can go ahead and click this and you can see what is available. And then there's also your paid option if you're like, I just want to give somebody money. WordPad, really? There's a paid version of WordPad? Interesting.
Is it WordPad plus?
No,
Yeah.
It just says WordPad. Simple processor that is included in almost all versions of Windows from 95 and onwards. It's the successor to the Windows 3.1S Write. But apparently it's paid. So I wonder if I can buy it for Linux. I mean, that would be cool.
That's interesting.
No, what you do is you actually just rip it out of a copy of Windows and stuff it in wine.
There you go. Yeah. Now,
Wait,
if you're looking for...
No, I know they made Calculator open source, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they made WordPad open source as well.
No, not to my knowledge.
But that is also one thing that you can do on this platform is that in addition to sort by licensing, you can also sort by platform. So if you are looking for something that works on Linux, then you can click that tab and it will only show you Linux options.
So let's clear the open source only. Let's hit the Linux platform. And then you can see WPS, LibreOffice, OnlyOffice, Apache OpenOffice, TextMaker. So these are the ones that you can find these, and they will be in your Linux repository in almost every case. So, of course, you can also find alternatives going into your software manager and just searching for things like, word processor.
That was also one of the changes that I had to adjust to back in the day, 20 years ago. One thing is finding software, but I didn't know that there was something called a repository. So I downloaded tarballs and compiled them.
I'm finding that a lot of software is slowly moving over to either Flatpaks or app images. For example, if you want use LibreOffice, it's easier to use an app image. I use a Flatpak. I cannot get it to build for some reason. So they give you the source or the other two options. And now Audacity's kind of gone the same way. They'll give you the source code. Otherwise, if you don't want to mess with it, you get the Flatpak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Let's Encrypt is also doing that. They are moving to snap packages.
So over here, we're on the LibreOffice website under download. You can download it. Of course, if you're already have a Linux distribution, you can probably also find it in your repository. If you're using like an Ubuntu or something, it might be a little bit older. But you can also download a Flatpak. You can find it as a snap, an app image. You can do the online versions. Some that may require servers at this point. I don't remember. I know mine does, but you don't have to do that anymore. So you have a lot of different options there on any type of software. Dan, we're on you, so you want to give us your general thoughts as well?
Well, with software, it's kind of I've kind of not done it the easy way like you're showing us. When I first started, it's like I kind of took people's recommendations, looked what was available in the software centers. If I wanted a tool to do something, I used a search engine and typed in something like, let's say I wanted a paint program in Linux. Okay, which this did happen to me. I wanted a small compact paint program, not a full blown out version of GIMP. I put in paint app Linux in the search engine. It gave me Pinta for a choice. I installed it. It was just what I needed. I've been talking to some people on Discord when I first started. They had a few Linux groups. I asked them questions. They recommended stuff. And then I started making my own text document of running programs that I could get that were good that I wanted to keep, or at least put them in the list. So if I switch to something else, maybe there's an alternative for that in the list. But the hard way is pretty much how I've gone. Things that I cannot do without that ran in Windows, I either use them in a virtual machine with a copy of Windows, which is very far and few. I have a few tools that work great in Play on Linux. And one of them I like is MP3 Tag. I do a lot of work with MP3s. And MP3 Gain GUI, the Windows version, is more complete than the actual Linux version is. And the GUI part for Linux is kind of like fading away. It's hard to find it. And if you do find it, it may or may not work. It comes under two different names. But you must install MP3 Gain first as a command line tool. But
Good.
I find I also have a program that I use from Windows that I paid quite a bit of money for it. I paid like $150 or something for something called Real Draw by Media Chance. Mm-hmm. That program's got like at the bottom a bunch of little balls with different shapes and sizes and colorations and stuff like that. It's almost kind of like working with Krita, but Krita didn't actually exist when I bought this. But that's been my experience getting software with Linux. The best choice is to ask somebody if it's feasible to do. If not, search for it on your own and see what you can dig up. But some of it I was familiar with from Windows. I already knew about Mozilla Firefox and was using it on Windows, the same as Thunderbird. I was really happy that I could get Linux versions and they worked trouble-free, and even the profiles transferred over if you'd done them right and read the 2 tutorials.
Okay.
So there you go with that one.
All right. Tech, you're up.
We were talking about Office replacements, and I actually am a very recent convert to only Office, and it is awesome because it is best I can tell, and I'm not like super advanced with Office stuff, but it is perfectly compatible with Microsoft's DocX and XLSX files, which I know are not open source, but in the work that I do, we use those files heavily because it's a majority Windows environment. And so if I can come home and open those documents on a completely FOSS program, that's definitely the preferred way to go. And frankly, I like its interface a lot. I mean, LibreOffice is nice. I have used it for years, but I am quickly coming around to only Office being the choice for those who are in a corporate or enterprise environment that are looking for a very similar feel to Microsoft.
So Office. What's not working in LibreOffice for the DocX that is working in only Office?
I don't think there's anything that's not working. It's just at least nothing that I've run into. But Only Office has said their purpose and their mission is to make their FOSS program 100% compatible. Like I know that there's macros predominantly in something like Excel that can get really, really esoteric, and I don't know how well that works with LibreOffice. I have not had the opportunity to use macros. My environment actually kind of discouraged the use of macros given security concerns. So anyway, Only Office, that's the one I'm with. Anyway,
how is it with formatting and things? If I wanted to format a book with it, how would you do that? Is it going to work?
Its interface is pretty close to that of Microsoft Word. I haven't gone that far to format a Word like a book with it, because I usually do like 4, 5, 6 page like technical SOPs. But the formatting tools that are in it are quite good. I like it. It feels more, maybe just because I live in my professional life, I live so much inside of Windows and Word. It feels very, very similar. It's relatively easy to find things.
Yeah, I think the at the beginning or somewhere in the middle of the super secret project here, Only Office reached out to me, and I can't remember if I've responded to them or not. But it's like, I want to give it another look. For me, I use LibreOffice like professionally in the publishing industry. And so I can't imagine making a switch, but I should definitely give it a try. I should try and format a book in it and see how it works. Just to give it a go. But with that, I tried to do it in Microsoft Office once. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. So it's like the interface is just like Microsoft Office. Well, that doesn't help me because I don't know where to start formatting a book.
I actually, in my LibreOffice installations, I've always actually switched it over to the tab view because I like that view a whole lot more than like file, edit, view, that kind of thing. I can't stand the menu, like the drop-down menus. That drives me insane.
My biggest pet peeve with software is they'll have a software that's a perfect layout and people can learn it really easy. And then when they update it and add features, instead of just adding the features elsewhere, they completely disturb the whole natural layout they created. Now everybody's lost looking for their favorite tools and stuff in it.
Yeah.
I see that this is, I have an issue with this because it's like, that is very subjective. And for all of Microsoft's faults, and there are many, they do a lot of research into accessibility and user interfacing, like UX stuff with the GUIs. So I don't think that I think your position is your position, Dan, and you're welcome to have it. But I think there's a lot of people who much prefer the tab layout interface because everything's just kind of right there. And if you need to get access to like an esoteric tool, you can do that. And this is one thing that LibreOffice does very well, and that you can switch back and forth between the two.
Yeah, I definitely
it's not necessarily that format that I'm complaining about. I'm complaining about when they develop something and then they just change it all around.
My classic example was Audacity. You know, I'm using macro builds in Audacity to when you're doing an audiobook, you need to make sure that there's a series of filters you have to run them through to make sure they're compatible with the ACX format. And in one update, and I accidentally updated Audacity in the middle of doing a book. Not only did they change the name, it used to be called Chains, and it was under the File menu. They changed the names to Macros and put it under the Tools menu. So they changed the name of it and changed its location. It took me a half hour to find it, and that change was not noted in the documentation. It's like, really, guys? Maybe there's
no, I'm with you. I think things like that they definitely shouldn't make.
I'm with you on that too. I use the same program to chop up record rips.
Yeah, I do like LibreOffice's approach though, because if you like the tabbed, you have it. If you like the old classic, you have it. I hate the tabbed because it's like I need to do something. Where in the hell is it? You know, and you got to hunt around tab. Whereas on the old thing,
it's like, it's right there. It's under
I
that
don't
tab.
use half of the crap that's up there, so I can customize my toolbar and say, okay, this is what I need. Everything I need is all at the toolbar. I never have to go to the File menu. You know, so, but they've done a really good job. Yeah, they've done a really good job of catering to both approaches with that, because I'm an old boomer dinosaur, so that is pretty much the case. You know,
that makes two of us.
I know, right? Yeah, you might be more of a dinosaur than me, but I know, right?
I'm probably 100% boomer.
Maybe. I'm technically not there, but I just think so old. So been in too many situations in my life.
You might be one of those Generation X's or Y's or whatever they had in there.
Maybe I can't remember.
Zoom.
I forgot what comes after boomer.
Let's see.
Gary
Google
GPL
Docs is
license.
going woke. We'll save that for Sillyville tomorrow because Google Docs now wants to replace things like Mailman with other stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Sillyville. Oh, Lord.
Gary under GPL license in Discord has it right. Definitely use Brave browser if you want a replacement for Google Chrome. The Flock stuff being in Chromium, the Chromium project saying that they weren't going to immediately remove it was like, I'm out. That was concerning. And then Firefox, now that they're being so heavily donated to by Google, they're getting a little on the political bandwagon that I would rather not be a part of. So I would completely divorce myself from Firefox now as well.
Yeah, and fortunately they're at least not implementing Flock, But that I know of. Who knows? Google might twist their arm yet and go, have Flock.
Hey, I don't use it. I don't care what they do now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, since I use so many different web browsers, like I use them all. And so it's just for different isolated purposes. Thanks, use Linux Mint. So far, I'm enjoying it, using it almost a year, per Kimba says. Now make a full switch until the Windows 10 era due to hardware issues and gaming. Jar Mate is your distro of choice. Linux Mint versus Ubuntu. I did a couple of those videos already. I prefer Linux Mint.
Agreed.
Let's see. Only Windows machine I have left is an old Pentium 4 dual booting Windows 98 SE and XP for retro gaming. Actually, I actually bought another Raspberry Pi like a couple weeks ago. Like a part or two. Raspberry Pi 2.
The first one was so delicious, you had to get another one.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I already had a wonderful build out for RetroPie already for playing the retro video games, but I also have a wonderful Kodi build for my TV, and I'm like, okay, let's just go ahead and buy another Raspberry Pi 2, which is so far out of date now. It's so far out of date that it's getting expensive. It's like an antique, but it works beautifully, and I have a dedicated Raspberry Pi for retro video games. So I beat Contra last night. I mean, it was fun. Started with a lot of OSs on Windows before making a full switch. LibreOffice, GIMP, OBS, VLC, Blender. Yeah, all of those are Linux. They are Windows. They're Mac. Paid maybe because you have to buy Windows. Yeah, there you go. Windows is never worth paying for, in my honest opinion. There you go. Okay, let's see if there's anything else in here that's applicable. There's some discussion about going back and forth on Linux Mint Debian Edition. Dan, you're on Debian Edition still. Give us the promotional for Linux Mint Debian Edition.
I'll tell you one thing. If I had to rebuild it, it would not turn out the same way as it is now.
What's that?
Because I have so much manually installed stuff and backported stuff installed, and I got Wine. I got the 5.10.5 kernel installed to get rid of the old 4 kernel. And I have manually installed NVIDIA drivers from scratch. That's a spooky one because you got to basically ditch all your video drivers and stuff like that, including the Novus one, and wind up at just plain text screen to install the NVIDIA drivers from their website.
They don't have the NVIDIA installer for Debian Edition? I know they do.
Not for the latest stuff. You get really, really old stuff.
Oh, okay. I see. Tech, you've convinced Sleepy Eyes Vince to look into OnlyOffice, so you got to convert there. Convert
or die.
That's right. Let's see. Don't want to configure Libre. I just want it to work. There you go. Yep, it works out of the box. Yep. Linux Mint is just redundant. All right. Mitchell says all of his employees use LMDE. Works great. There you go. Who used WordPerfect back in the day?
Yeah, LMDE is extremely flexible. You can really switch it up.
I think I used WordPerfect a little bit I want to say it was the late 90s. And then I think in 2007,
I did too.
I stumbled across a version that they had that was like their Office 2007 like knockoff. So it had the tabbed interface, but it was just it was like the tabbed interface, but it was like the crystal theming that was like very popular with like KDE back then. It was a very weird UI for Windows.
I used VP a few times in the 90s, and it was the command line version.
Yeah. I think I had WordPerfect on my first computer, but I also had Office 95, and so
they used to also bundle that with brand new machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tom needs this for the HUD to make a comeback. Ooh, there you go. Did I use the Konami code when I beat Contra? Yes, I did. I'm trying to get down to beating it in only 30 lives. I had to continue once. I'm still not up there yet. I get through all of stage 1 and most of stage 2 before I lose my spread fire, and then, we used to be able to go through without dying at all, but that was years ago. But thank you for that super chat, Mitchell. Yeah, I did use the Konami code.
Slow and washed up.
Yep. I did indeed use my Konami code. I still have a Final Fantasy party going too. So that's fun. So.
No, I didn't know that. What Final Fantasy are you doing?
What's that?
What Final Fantasy are you doing?
Oh, number one. The classic original.
Gotcha.
So I have a fighter, a black belt, a white wizard, and a black wizard, and it's fun. I'm doing a thing right now where I'm leveling up 5 levels before I go on to the next stage of the mission. And so by the time you get to the end, like the last time I played it with 4 black belts, which is the best way to play Final Fantasy, 4 black belts, I get in there and I beat Chaos in 2 hits. Because the black belts, the black belts are just so powerful when they cross over into masters. No weapons, no armor, just give him fists, and then like he comes up, 10 hits, dead. What? Chaos didn't even go. It's like, yeah.
My only experience with Final Fantasy was in the late 19s, early 2000s, a music video by Finnish melodic metal band Stratovarius. They made I think it's almost 10 minutes long.
I think Final Fantasy 10.
Yeah,
they had a very different. That was the first one on PlayStation 2, and it was a very different soundtrack. That whole game was actually quite different than all of them coming before.
I don't know. 7 was so bad I took it out of the computer and broke it in half.
I'm one of these guys who I was around when 7 was. I was never a PlayStation guy, so everybody around me talked about 7, and it has this huge classic nostalgia thing about it. And I don't know what it is, but 7 just doesn't grab me. I enjoyed the movie that they did, Advent Children. Is that it? I thought that was a really cool movie, and I know what the story is because I've seen a recap.
Your PlayStation is now Sony's being accused of having a game monopoly because they're forcing you to buy all the games from them for your PlayStation. They will no longer accept the game store codes that you can go in the store and buy the game and get a code for it to load it.
Whoa! Wow.
Yeah.
If they lose that could be disruptive for Apple, because that's pretty much the way it is for Apple with iPhones and
Renard asked, have I found an alternative for Audacity yet? Audacity backtracked, so no, we'll not. We accomplished our task. The community got up in arms and said, no, what are you doing? And they backtracked. It wasn't a complete backtrack, but they did backtrack enough that I will be confident enough using Audacity for the things I need it for.
How far did they backtrack? Because I don't know. I haven't followed the details since your video. I watched your video, but I haven't seen anything more.
Yeah, so some of it is a little bit more questionable. So they still want to track when you turn it on what operating system you're using and what version you're using. But instead of using analytics or Yandex, they're using their own self-hosted analytics script. The other thing they're doing, they say you can turn that off. And that was one of my big questions. Originally, it was opt-in. Now it sounds like that's opt-out. And then the second thing they're doing is instead of doing a lot of the other stuff they're going to do, they're just going to have a report error box if the program detects some problem like Ubuntu does. So I guess that's a reasonable enough compromise as long as that one feature is opt-out or is opt-in instead of opt-out. But we'll see what happens when it comes on down the pipeline and how some people are responding, because it's like Arch was pulling it out of the repos, moving it onto the AUR.
I bet that had a lot to do with it.
I think probably Fedora and Debian probably would have done.
Debian still has the 2.0 version.
Yeah,
the new version is 3.0.2.
Yeah,
that one's Flatpak or build your own only.
Yeah, so it'll we'll have to wait yet to see what happens with it down the road, but that is that for the people out there that said, and I'll repeat this again tomorrow on the news, but for the people like, why don't you do your research, or why don't you wait a little while longer? No, that's the thing that we have to do these upfront videos to show them that the community is not going to respond positively to these types of changes. And I see, I was probably the last one to do it. I think they changed some of their direction by the time my video went live. But at the same token, a lot of people weren't up in arms about it, and that is what caused them to revert back. And that's, that's what we should be doing. We should be making known our
dislike for
censorship. It's like, guys, no, we don't want data tracking. Facebook, hello, these guys were trying to log your IP address with Google and Yandex. What?
But to their credit, they used the pull request as a point of showing that someone wanted this feature. And the PR is closed and it's not merged. So
yeah, so hopefully that should be all set. Anyone tried LibreWolf? I actually use LibreWolf quite a bit. I don't use it here on the streaming just because it doesn't interface well with OBS, but it is pretty good. Hello, Russell Brooks. What's up, dude, to you as well. How's it going? Let's see. Every time I do this, I want to say gnarly. Do people still say that, or am I just that old?
Anybody know what Gary under GPL license means in the Discord? He says apparently the military is now tracking their service number. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I saw an article about that. I think I saw it in the British and the Register. They used to follow the service members' social media profiles. And then they had and then they were told to stop doing that. And now they are saying they want to start doing that again.
I see.
Deberis asks, do you use Scribus or LibreOffice for your desktop publishing? If it's just basic PDF type stuff, I generally would use Scribus. It depends on what I'm doing. There was a time I've used Scribus, but usually I use LibreOffice for stuff like that. Dan Renard says, good evening to you. Commodore 64 has never been a big Final Fantasy fan yourself. The reason I hated Final Fantasy VII was because you're not playing a game. You're occasionally participating in a movie. It's like I come in from a long day at work. I have 20 minutes to play video games to de-stress. I'm not going to sit here doing this to read through 35 minutes of crap before I go and kick somebody's butt with my sword. No, let me go beat up a monster. That's what I want to do. I'm not interested in your cool story. Woo! If I wanted a cool story, I'd watch a movie. I want to play a game right now. That's why I hated Final Fantasy VII. I'm probably an outsider on my dislike for that game, but Hey, man, that's not a boomer. That's just a personal
I know,
preference thing.
yeah. No, Final Fantasy X is a lot the same way. I think there's a lot of the criticism.
Is it?
Well,
Yeah.
now they're on to number 7. I find it unfeasible to actually get into Final Fantasy without, because then I'd have to buy all the ones that came before it, and I'm not.
No, you don't have to actually,
Yeah,
because
they're all
several
pretty
of them
much
were
isolated.
not even released anywhere except Japan. And so they're not necessarily like a soap opera thing. Each one is its own independent story.
Right. They're all for the most part, they're all like self-contained.
Yeah.
There's some exceptions to that, but generally speaking, they're all self-contained.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of bought into that with BioShock, and I found out after I played the last game first that I really liked it, so I bought the first and second one.
Well, I'd say the funny thing about that, in my opinion, with my experience, the last game, BioShock Infinite, is the only good BioShock game. I did not like the first 2 games; they were incredibly boring.
Speaking of games with stories,
You mean
I used to play.
BioShock Infinite?
I used to play Wing Commander Privateer back in the day, the first one. I played it all week long for a few years, and then I moved on to other things. And 10 years after I stopped playing it, I was reading in some article about games that had impacted society. And only then did I notice that the game actually had a story that you could follow.
Control is actually a pretty good game if you like to actually hunt down things and shoot them and kill them and stuff like that, because you work for the U.S. Department of Control. And the things that you're controlling is actually wormholes and time-space shifts in a building.
That game actually does look pretty cool. I haven't gotten a chance to play it.
It is cool.
I've been trying to figure out if I can make time sometime before the end of this year.
If it goes on sale, grab it.
Let's go ahead and do a quick wrap up on the topic, and then we can diverge into games for a few more minutes. So, basic wrap up on topic. Alternative2.net is where you can find alternatives to the software packages. Look around to see what is available to you, to see what applications you're going to jump to when you move that jump over to Linux. So those are kind of my thoughts. Salbu, you're on this camera right now, so give us your thoughts.
Yeah, one thing that people can do when they want to explore what is available, that I used to do back in the day. I'm still doing a few times a year in the various software package manager, the GUIs. You have groups of software like Office suites and games and so on. Go through those and see what is available in the package repo. Because one thing is the software that it's installed by default, but there is a whole throw of a whole list of things that one can explore just by reading the names and what they do. And that's one way to discover cool software and alternatives. So some of the software that I'm using, I didn't know that you could do that with the software until I noticed a name and I read what it did and so on. So that's one way to explore what is available.
All right. Tech, give us your final words.
I'm actually, I think, everything Solbu said, but I'm actually, before we totally close out of this, there's one way to look for alternatives. Ask the community.
Yes.
I'm actually been in the hunt for like a podcasting app that, and this is a lot. I don't have a lot of asks on this, but like something that's got an app for like the iPhone, and that also has a web interface that I can access at my job. Vince recommended Castbox, and I've enjoyed Castbox, but it doesn't seem to like sync up between like your phone and like the website. So it's like I said, I know it's kind of a big ask, but if anybody's got any ideas, I would be totally okay with hearing them out.
iTunes.
Yeah, I'm trying to get off of Apple Podcasts if I can.
Yeah,
and I really don't want to use.
And you're looking for you said you're looking for a client, right?
Yeah, something an actual like something local to the computer. I mean, like I'll use the web interface at work if I have to, but I would prefer like when I'm at home on my computer to have an actual native app, just like I do on the iPhone. But whatever. If there's anybody who's got any ideas out there, I know iHeartRadio exists, but they don't have like native clients on Linux or anything like that.
Yeah. There is another new one. It probably also doesn't have one on Linux, and I can't remember the name of it off the top, but they reached out to me because I have podcasts on all the other platforms anyway. Let's see if I can find it.
I tried Podverse, but its UI is really, really, really clunky, and it's just a pain in the butt to use.
I don't think I have that. Yeah, but there's I don't know if anybody hears, let me know and I'll let Tech know, and that might be something I'll be looking into sometime in the future myself. So that'll be good.
Or comment down below after.
Yeah, comment down below too. Dan, give us your final thoughts.
Okay, let's say you do find a package or hear of a package that you may want to try out, but you can't find it in your repo. If you open your terminal, this is mostly for Debian and Debian-based distros type apt search in your package name, and then it'll give you a list of everything that's available for that package, or it'll show up nothing at all. You can do the same for Flatpaks too. Flatpak search and then the name of your Flatpak. Mm-hmm. And you can see if that's in there really easy just by using your terminal. Like I said, I probably did it the hardest way possible by searching for everything and taking, recommendations from internet friends.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the good, cool things about the apt search command is that it will also search the not only the package name but in the description of the package. So if you search for example, a web browser, then every package who has the web browser as in the as a feature of the package will also show up. So.
I mean, I've had the same problem. I have been using this because I have everything backported, so I get bullseye stuff too that comes through. So I'm not on old packages like they say you're on Debian, you're old packages. No, I got some fairly new ones, and it's because I ported them, from bullseye. And once you set that up in your source list, which I had to learn how to do, and then all of a sudden you can get those to pop up on your searches as well, but they won't be in your package manager repo thing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, there it is. My final thoughts, of course. I'll be streaming on the other channel tonight. We're doing Hebrews 12, I think. So you can go ahead and head on over there for that. Link is put in the chat there. So we have a few more minutes, I guess. We can shoot the breeze. I guess go back to video games or whatever else. But anyway. Any other fun, interesting world news we'd like to debate before we jump off here?
So, are we going to talk about Israel and Palestine? No.
Preferably not.
Let's not.
That's too explosive.
Yeah, it's a little explosive, all right. Especially for
little bit. They did a ceasefire yesterday. Is it still ceased, or is it on fire?
I don't know.
According to the news today, I checked the news before I came on. It's still ceased.
Okay. Wow, well, I'm glad.
That's good.
Thank God.
That's good. Yeah, we don't.
As always, the truth is often buried in the various media sources, and so it's not if you don't know what you're looking for, then finding the truth is not easy. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can probably just wrap up here at this point. So, stretch out here. Hopefully, I will not pull out the internet from the...
Yeah, don't disconnect yourself again.
Yeah. But tomorrow, of course, weekly news roundup, 9:00 Eastern. So we can we'll see what's going on there. We'll talk about a lot of fun news. I'll do the update article from Audacity, among other fun things, and I guess we'll talk about Google going woke, because apparently Google thinks if you use the word mailman, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. It's not quite as bad as out here. Penn State is dropping freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Because apparently they are bad paternalistic words, and so they're dropping those for some reason.
Just like Japan, which have first, second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, and so I'm out in a park today, and I'm working on some stuff on a computer, and a group of masked Penn State students come in, and they're like, I'm a second year. And then they're just like, well, we can't say sophomore anymore because it's like, I think it's like paternalistic or something. I'm like, okay, guys, if you're in college, have critical thinking skills, you know. On top of that, you know, you're in a park. You don't actually have to be wearing that diaper on your face anymore.
Yeah, right.
They pull all this stuff out and throw it at us just to keep us dazed and confused.
Yeah. So it's like, oh Lord. So that's the thing. So like most of the stores out here have lifted their official mandates. I went to the grocery store today for the first time without being accosted by a sign that says wear a mask. At least I didn't see a sign that said wear a mask. Still, most of the people. I did actually have a couple good conversations. I did see more people without them today in the store than I have seen in a year. And I had a couple conversations with some of them, and we were all generally in agreement, like, you know, interesting. So, but apparently Walmart has lifted theirs as well, so I should be able to walk into Walmart now without getting. I should be able to walk into the local Walmart, RSA, without getting accosted by the crypt keeper at the door. I have actually been going to the Walmart in the next county over because they don't have any of this nonsense. They don't really care. But if I could go to the local one when I need something at Wally World, that would actually be a little bit closer of a drive. So
I got a vaccine. It was too easy.
Yeah, it was. I'm guessing it is. I mean, I can get.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the store grocery shopping, and they tell you over the store loudspeaker that they're now taking walk-ins at the pharmacy in the store. You know, it's too easy.
At no cost, just pretty soon we're going to be going into the grocery store and there's pharmacists who are going to be chasing after us with needles. Come back here.
Here's the kicker.
You must get vaccinated, comrade. Dorothy demands.
They give you a CDC card and tell you not to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
With the vaccine
that's your return to society passport. Is what that is.
Well, Oregon is trying to actually mandate such a passport right now, so I'll have to chat with my friend over there in Oregon soon and see.
My sister posted a few hours ago that she has always been afraid of taking the shot because of various news stories about the side effects and so on.
I mean,
and
everyone.
She posted that she is now have the fear under check and is now. She commented that she is alive for another 12 days, and she commented with a smiley face that the nurse that she was talking to on the phone calmly explained that she would not be put down with the shot. And I commented that no, that comes later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone needs to make the decision for themselves, and you know, if you want it, go get it. If you don't, then it shouldn't be compelled on you. The local health system out here, only 30% of the people in the local health system out here are getting one.
I kind of look at it this way: shot or no shot. When my time comes, I'm going to go with a shot or without a shot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your mom says, do you know if the Pine phone is worth using for phone calls yet? It is usable as long as you're not using a Bluetooth headset, to my understanding. The best place to go is have a look at Pizza Loving Nerds channel, because he actually does all of the testing, and he does some of the actual news releases for Pine, so he knows more about it. But from when I've talked to him, he said yes, it works, but a headset may not yet. Let's see. Stores doing crazy stuff here. Nothing was enforced by local laws. I remember being in Walmart with no catcher or on, watching a woman with a catcher on yell at her husband and kids for not following the directional markets on the floor.
I went into a gas station this past weekend, and they have signs on the doors. They say masks are required by everybody inside the store at all times. And it's one of these like miniature gas stations. It's like the size of my room here. And there was me and 3 other guys. Nobody had masks on except for there were 2 clerks behind the counter, and one of them had a mask on. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, if you're in like a multi-hour shift with this other clerk and you're like 4.5 feet away, like, isn't that against the like? Isn't that mask not going to do you any favors?
But you know what they tell us is they got the sign in the door. Nobody's in the store with a mask on. They tell you we have to put that in the doorway by law.
Yeah.
You can come in and do whatever you want.
Right, yeah, that's how most businesses are. And so I just assume, I always go in and assume that the mask is there because the government mandates it, and I let the employees of the store tell me otherwise. And if the employees of the store tell me otherwise and it's not a critical stop, later I'll go to your competitor across the street. And I've done plenty of that. So let's see. All right, I think we need to jump off here. So I will be streaming in 1 hour on the other channel. I put the link up there in the live chat. So you can go over there if you are interested in Christian discussions. If you are not, then we will see you tomorrow for the weekly news roundup. With that, we will see you guys later.
Take care, everyone.
Later, everybody.
Bye.